Welcome to the Working Title Show with Zach Sams. We are here and back, and man, it is hot now. The heat has come back. Since we recorded last time, it was cold. Now it's hot. It must be Texas. I don't know what's going on. With me always, Zach Lewis, our fabulous producer. How are you doing, Zach?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. What was that? Was that that music there? Was that Hair Band 3? Is that who that was?
Rock 1. Close.
Oh, Rock 1. There you go. We play only the best music here, Scott.
The one, the only.
So, Zach, it's like 90 degrees out, man.
It feels good.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm happy. My grass is growing. So, everybody, welcome to the show. This is the Working Title Show with Zach Sams on the Real News Communication Network, brought to you by Kensington Vanguard National Title of Texas. And this show, it's a good news show. It's about Dallas, the DFW area, real estate, the economy's booming. And it's easy to have good news in Dallas right now. Everything's rocking. And we are just excited about our guest today, Scott Morse. Now, Scott, help me out with this time. I'm going to say founder, CEO of the Citadel Partners, but correct me there. Did I get that title wrong? Should I ask you that before we started recording?
No, that's okay. I'm co-founder and managing partner for Citadel Partners.
That's excellent. And Citadel Partners has a very warm place in my heart, as both offices that we occupy right now, the Citadel Partners and your fantastic team helped place us in those offices, and we couldn't be happier with them.
Well, that's the kind of commentary we like. That's probably the thing over the years that we get the most, is people are very satisfied and they keep coming back to us, and that's really what we aspire to do. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And the rebate for me saying that, I'll
absolutely.
expect soon. So.
Yep. It's coming shortly.
No worries. So Scott, like on this show, we like to talk about what's going on in DFW. You know, there's the news media out there is just, I mean, it's all negative all the time. And, that just brings me down. So we try to talk about, some positive things going out there. And it's been easy over the last couple of years. We got a lot of good stuff going on in Dallas. But, give us your thoughts or your perspective on, why DFW is just, really just stretching the limits of a positive cycle in real estate that we haven't seen before. What's keeping that going?
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about the fundamentals. Okay?
Sure.
Because I think you start wide and then work our way down a bit. Central time zone, we're 3 hours from either coast. Climate is good. Cost of living is good. Quality of life is excellent. And that's gained a lot of traction.
Right.
Historically, our market, if you look on the West Coast or East Coast, they think we're riding around in chuck wagons and still riding on horses.
Right.
And they haven't, up until probably the last 10 years, really realized that the DFW market is, we're approaching a 24-hour city. We're not there yet, but we're approaching a 24-hour city.
What's a 24-hour city, Scott?
That's a city where really never sleeps. 24/7 there's activity. It's the first time in my career that we've really gained traction in our central business district. If you look at that, we've got 10 to 15,000 residents living within the CBD proper.
Right.
We've been talking about that for 35 years, and it's really happening today. So we're not there yet, but we're approaching a 24-hour city, which is great news. And consequently, what's happened is we've been able to attract capital from all over the world, which has helped bolster our economy. And then we've had in excess of 100 to 130,000 jobs new created over the last 5 years, which is unprecedented.
That is. I mean, it's quite a ride. And it's interesting you mentioned that about the foreign money, because I was just talking with one of my coworkers this week on a Chilean family that's wanting to bring, their $8 billion and invest in specifically Texas, Dallas, and Austin.
That's right.
I mean, and we're hearing that a lot. So that's good for us, right?
Oh, it absolutely is. And it really is. Our office market, that's what I spend the majority of my time in.
Sure.
Is currently about 15% vacant. Historically, you would see rampant new construction underway. But what's happened is with the meltdown in 2009, capital has become very restrained, it's very sophisticated, and it's very prudent. And that's been very healthy for our economy. And so when you look at these new buildings being built, there's anywhere from 40 to 60% pre-leased. When you start looking at Toyota, Liberty Mutual, Federal Express, J.P. Morgan, all those buildings that you've seen come to life now,
Right.
were pre-leased. So they weren't a speculative development that you saw back in the 80s.
It's more like a build-to-suit type
It
of thing.
absolutely
Right.
is. And, Toyota, as an example, has got 4,000 people sitting on their 2 million square foot campus today.
So you're saying, so Toyota is actually leasing that property. They don't own that themselves?
Well, they do now.
Okay.
Much like State Farm and some others, what they do is they sign a long-term lease, and then there's an acquisition strategy down the road.
Okay. That's interesting. Is that pretty common in the space?
It's a very prudent move. I wouldn't say it's necessarily very common because often corporate users don't want to own their own properties, but what they did was, I think, a very prudent move on their part.
Interesting. So expand on that, because I don't know why that is, but why would a large company or corporation not want to own the building that they're using their headquarters in or
Sure.
have a big staff in?
Sure. So if you own property, okay, real estate is not a liquid asset.
Right.
So it moves in cycles.
Sure.
Historically, we've been in 7-year cycles. This is the longest cycle that we've seen. We bottomed in 2009. We
Right.
stayed flat through 2012, and we've been straight up ever since. So we've well exceeded our typical traditional 7-year cycle. So what happens is an organization will look at a piece of real estate, and depending upon whether their business is flat, growing, or contracting, will have a great deal to do with their real estate strategy as to whether they lease, buy, build, etc.
Interesting. Well, that makes a lot of sense, especially if they're, if they're publicly traded or things like that. That's
Absolutely.
definitely going to, go towards their liquidity and
Right.
and how that would look. Well, we're gonna have to take a break, but that was an enlightening segment there, Scott. I really
Well, good.
appreciate that.
Good, sure.
Yeah.
We got more to come.
We do. That's what I was supposed to say. But we will be back with Scott Morse. This is the Working Title Show with Zach Sams. We'll be back in a moment. And we are back on the Working Title Show with Zach Sams, and he's hung around for segment 2. Thank goodness. Scott Morse, founding partner or managing partner, founding member. I've already
There you
butchered
go.
it,
That's,
haven't I?
that's good.
I totally
that's
butchered
good.
it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all right.
You need to get in the title business. We just make up our titles whenever we want.
I'm still here.
Yeah. So, Scott, you were really telling us some interesting information on the commercial real estate market. I think it's great for not everybody that is in the real estate market, right? I think if you're not in it day to day, there's so many misconceptions on what's going on out there. Now, I want to kind of pivot to your company. And as I said before, y'all helped us find the office space for our company, and we couldn't be happier. So, tell us a little bit about your company and what y'all do and how y'all help your clients.
Sure. So we're a real estate advisory firm, and we work with corporate clients in the office and industrial space, and we have primarily 4 verticals. We work with technology, financial services, oil and gas, and public sector companies. And we'll deal with both privately held as well as publicly traded organizations. We work on a national basis. We're based here in Dallas, and we actively have assignments over the last 5 years in about 45 different markets around the country.
No kidding.
Yeah. So what we do is we really look at a organization. A client often will come to us, or we'll find a client, referred to a client, and they say, we have a real estate facility decision that's pending. Mm-hmm. And that pending could be anywhere from an immediate need, much like you guys had,
Sure.
To something 2-3 years out, particularly if they're contemplating a acquisition or build of a particular building. So what we do is we sit down and we spend a lot of time really in a discovery process of understanding an organization's strategic plan, goals, objectives, et cetera, where the company is, where they're going.
Right.
And then what we do is we dissect that a little further into really what we look at are five primary business drivers. There's strategic initiatives, there's culture and brand issues, there's the HR issues, and then of course there's finance and operations. And so what we do is we look at each one of those elements, and then we try to really go through a discovery process where we understand those elements on an organization, and then we draft a real estate strategy around that such that the real estate strategy will help support and align the business strategy. And if we do our job right, what we end up with is a more profitable, flexible, and productive workplace for our client and their employees.
So do you get So I remember when you told me those five things when I was looking for space, and I think I probably had like a deer in the headlights look. Like I haven't thought about any of those things. I just need somebody. I just need somewhere to hang my hat. So is that? I mean, are your competitors this full circle or this inclusive with what they're trying to do, or is it more common just to we'll open some doors for you and you tell us what you want?
Yeah. Selfishly, I would tell you it's more they're looking for opening doors.
Right.
And really where this is what we call integrated business value is what we're looking to create for our client.
Right.
And this really came out of the capital meltdown in 2009, where we really started looking at our clients and really trying to understand what their needs, wants, and desires are. And what
people were really cost conscious at that time too.
Absolutely, and what they wanted was a greater depth of service at a lower cost with quicker speed to market. And so we developed this strategy, and what we've done in the last 5.5 years is averaged about a 34% savings to our clients' bottom line from an occupancy standpoint. And as an example, look at the HR element. Today, there's 4 generations in the workforce.
Right.
Okay. Each one of those generations have a dramatically different set of wants, desires, and needs. So for the most part, you have a C-suite today that I would characterize as baby boomers.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a workforce that's primarily millennial.
Right.
And they're trying to make plans for the next 5 and 10 years where the majority of those baby boomers are going to retire or slow down, and now your company is being run by the millennial generation. And so,
well, break that down for me. So, what does a baby boomer office suite look like versus a millennial office suite? If you could do it in that type of, if you could illustrate.
Okay,
that.
so here, think of it this way. So, I'm a baby boomer. When I grew up in school, the teacher would say, "You have a test. Go take a test, go study, and the test is on Wednesday."
Mm-hmm.
A millennial, they'll say, "Okay, get in your group, go through our group notes, talk about it, and get ready for the test on Wednesday." You see that now transform into the workplace where a guy like me wants my own private office, my own things, and knickknacks on the wall, that sort of thing. Whereas a millennial generation, traditionally, now I'm being very general in this, but
sure.
I think this is fair to say the millennial generation will rather be in an open environment, open architecture, where they can bounce ideas off one another, talk to one another, gain ideas. That's how they learn. That's how they learn in college.
Right.
They go from high school to college, and now you have these group chats and all kinds of things on how they learn, and baby boomers didn't do that.
Right.
Baby boomers also are very much about getting the job done. The millennial generation is much more about a 360-degree quality of life and blending work-life balance.
That's interesting. And so I wasn't even going to plan on going this way, but you got a pretty good crew of millennials that work for you, and I met all of them, and they're awesome guys, and they've been so great. But I guess I'm gonna have to talk to you on the side and be like, hey, how do you find all these great people in the millennial generation? Because what I see is like, I mean, they're either they've got it and they're hungry and they want to get it done, or you're just kind of scratching your head like, how do I motivate this person? So even though we're on a tangent, like how do you find the millennial workforce that and how did you know how to really motivate them and move them in the directions they need to go?
Yeah. Well, our guys are phenomenal.
They are.
They
Absolutely.
are absolutely phenomenal, and the millennials get a bad rap, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Our guys are at the office 7:30. They're working hard all during the day, and they're probably there 6 to 6:30 at night, and they're coming in on Saturdays when
They
we're
told
there.
me they're there at 3 a.m. and they don't leave till midnight.
Yeah, well, that's not that much. Not that much. So it's hard. It's hard, but we do personality profiling.
Sure.
And you go through, you find 1 out of 10 probably.
Yeah.
And these guys are the future of our firm.
Yeah.
And we did that very purposefully.
Well, you did a great job with them.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I really
Thank
like
you.
working with them. And Tyler's out there blending that 360
He sure
degree
is.
life work balance
That's right.
like, as we speak.
That's right. He's playing golf as we speak.
Yeah, but that's work.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
It's work for me. It's play for him. It's work for me.
Yeah, he's pretty good at it.
Yeah, he is.
He's a good man. So we'll be back here in a moment, Scott. I appreciate that. I mean, this is all kind of wisdom. You're gonna have to be on the show. I think every recording because I'm learning a lot here today.
Okay,
so I
good.
really appreciate it. All right. Well, this is the Working Title Show with Zach Sams. On with me, Scott Morse with the Citadel Partners, and we'll be right back. Millennial music, I think.
Absolutely is. Absolutely.
We are back with the Working Title Show with Zach Sams, and who is that? I give up.
That's
Millennial one.
Hard Rock 2.
Hard
yeah,
Rock.
That's what that is.
Maybe I guess we'd have to.
I
listen
listened to it on my iPod.
Oh.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, all right, we're going downhill fast, but
No,
here we
it's
are.
fine.
We are back. Scott Morris with the Citadel Partners is with us, and Scott, man, it's been a treat having you on today.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you've
been fun.
It has been. It has been. It's been enlightening, and I think people listening will, I think we've spent a lot of time in this show clearing up misconceptions about the real estate market,
Yep.
whether that's on the residential side or on the commercial side, because everybody thinks they know. And everybody thinks they know why our economy's strong. One of the things that stuck out with me was, that we're in the central time zone and we're 3 hours from
Yep.
each coast. But, I mean, we've been in the central time zone and 3 hours from each coast for quite a while. But
Forever.
it's like people are just catching on to it now. Is
Well,
that what's going on? Or is the country changing to where that becomes more important?
I think the country's changing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is when you start looking at a 24-hour city,
Right.
when you start looking at the advent of technology, people nowadays are really working 18, 19 hours a day, if you think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah,
Okay?
don't remind me.
Yeah, I know. So, I mean, I can be sitting on my couch watching the sports, and I'm getting emails or texts from clients.
And responding.
That's right.
And every time you respond is work.
That's right.
You clock it in when you do it, right?
That's right. Before the advent of technology, somebody would not call you on your home landline
No.
at 10:30 at night. They don't think about the same level of disruption or quality of life, etc. They expect speed to market.
Right. That's totally true. I didn't even think about that. Nobody called, when I was at home as a kid, nobody called my dad
No.
for work reasons when we were at dinner.
No. But you're on it all the time, right?
Yeah.
I'm on it all the time. And the crazy thing is people know you have a smartphone, and if you don't respond, it becomes offensive to them.
Yeah.
And so you have to respond, so it's hard to get away from that. But things like I grew up here,
Sure.
okay?
Same
so when I was a kid, it was a much different environment. We're a 7 million plus population when you look at the metropolitan area.
Right.
And we're going to over 10. We've got light rail now that actually works and people utilize. I was one of the guys 15 years ago that said it'll never happen.
Do you use it?
No,
the
I
light
don't.
rail?
I don't.
I haven't used it yet either.
I don't. I was meeting with a client yesterday, and one of their staff members said they do, and it's 45 minutes. They live up in Carrollton. They go downtown, and it's 45 minutes each way, and they get a ton of work done.
That's interesting. I'm in the car all the time.
So am I. So am I. I couldn't do it in my business. I couldn't do it, but a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
And so what you're having is the relocations of the people from California, from the East Coast, from the Midwest, and that's changing the personality of our community.
Yeah.
And that's a huge deal because it now, with the advent of technology and the changing demographic profile, Dallas-Fort Worth is behaving in a different manner than it did 20 years ago.
That's interesting, and it's what's funny is what you hear people talking about, especially like with mixed use developments,
right.
and how that's really designed, like to keep traffic, down around the city and things like that, which I guess partners with the light rail, and so I assume that 20 years from now we're going to see, like maybe my kids will be using light rail or something like that because it'll be a common thing.
Well, when you think about the CBD, when it was designed, if you look at the transportation arteries, they're all designed to get people out of the CBD at closing time. Mm-hmm. That's a big issue today. We have underground tunnels with retail down below that were built for the hot climates. They wanted people in the air conditioning. So what happened was that took all your activity off the street and now put them down below.
We have that now?
Yes, we
Where?
have downtown.
No kidding.
Yeah, we have tunnels downtown with all kinds of retail and everything down there connecting buildings for pedestrians.
So I haven't seen that.
Yeah. So now the idea is how do we, there's some thought about closing the tunnels. There's some thought about how do we get that pedestrian activity back up onto the street level.
No kidding.
Yeah. So it just goes to show you the difference in the demographic and operational style of our community from 50 years ago.
Interesting. So, Scott, tell me, what do you think? What's the biggest challenge for Dallas-Fort Worth? But and then follow that up. What's the biggest challenge in your business right now? Or you can take that in either. You can take either one.
So I think the biggest challenge for Dallas-Fort Worth, we do business all around the country.
Sure.
And so what I see in Dallas-Fort Worth, regardless of municipality that you go to, you've got a very proactive, strong business climate. Mm-hmm. To do business here is much easier than in San Francisco, New York, Chicago, wherever. I think that's a challenge to keep that as we grow, to keep that proactive business, the Texas way of life. We still have a little bit of that gunslinger in us, sure. And I hope and pray that we keep that in us because I think that's what makes Texas special. Absolutely. We're a very special place. It's a can-do kind of attitude, and I don't want to ever see us lose that. From a real estate perspective, the $64 million question today is how long is this cycle going to last? As I mentioned earlier, we've already outlived that cycle. So now you have these huge disparities from an income perspective, seller and buyer pricing expectation, and they're trying to meet in the middle somewhere, and that's a huge challenge, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
From a lease rate perspective, we've never broken $50 a foot until this last cycle in Dallas, Texas. So while it's high here, we're still a bargain for around the country.
Right.
And so I think if we can maintain the job growth, maintain the proactive business climate, I think we will see a bit of a lull, which I think will give everybody a chance to kind of take a breath. I don't think you're going to see a huge drop at all.
You think that lull going to be, which my speculation is it's just, people kind of just sideline for a minute, trying to figure out what the cycle is going to do, and then they're going to be like, well, I guess it's going to keep going.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And each cycle is different. And that's the challenge about it, is that when you look at the 80s, you look at the 90s, you look at the 2000s, if you think about the cycles, there's been an initiator that has been completely unexpected and different from the prior cycle. So these guys that talk about, well, I can guarantee you what's going to happen, I can guarantee you they can't guarantee us what's going to happen.
Best guarantee I've heard in a while.
That's right. That's right.
So, the last cycle or, downturn 2009, we didn't see it come. I mean, you could kind of see it coming, but nobody knew when it was going to happen. I mean, it was pretty much unsustainable. But This one, it's kind of almost like we're going to create it ourselves a little bit by not being sure where we are, like an uncertainty type of lull.
Yeah, as it relates to Dallas, we like to say around our office, job growth creates or cures cancer.
Sure.
Okay, and we watch job growth. We watch the consumer confidence index. I could show you a chart that there's a direct correlation between consumer confidence and office space activity.
Right.
Okay, so we're watching those kinds of things. You know, if you're feeling comfortable about going out and buying a new car, buying a new house, making a contract in your business, that's my best economic indicator I have. If I come to you and you say, Scott, I'm not willing to make that commitment right now, that gives me cause for pause.
Absolutely. That's interesting. You know what's funny is I have conversations, and that $64 million question I think comes up every time
Absolutely,
right now.
every day.
And but I hear, I hear a lot of complaining right now, and I want to be like, we could go back, 10 years ago and we'd be really complaining right now. Now we're all complaining like the economy is too strong, like, costs are up here, costs are up there. But those are really, that's what happens when the market's good, right?
That's opportunity.
Yeah.
Anybody that is complaining today needs to go see a shrink.
Yeah.
There is no reason to complain today.
No, I don't think so. Think so. We should be whistling Dixie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here in a minute, I'm going to start singing, then you won't have any listeners anymore.
We're going to lose our one. Dang it. Scott, I can't tell you how much of a treat it's been having you on here, and to just kind of rap with you about, some of these things and put some clarity around, what's going on in the city. Cause
this has been a ton of fun. I appreciate the invite.
Absolutely. You'll have to come back on with us.
Love to.
Bring Tyler on. We'll give him some shit.
Oh, yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. We can say shit on this, by the way.
Oh, you can?
Too. Yeah.
Totally.
Oh,
perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
All
well,
right.
then Tyler will be right at home.
Well, Scott, I appreciate it again. This has been the Working Title Show with Zach Sams, and we will catch you next time. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for subscribing to the podcast and listening today. I want to give a special thanks to Kensington Vanguard National Title of Texas. The show is sponsored by them, and Kensington Vanguard is a national title company with local people working here in Dallas-Fort Worth, specializing in commercial title insurance and residential title insurance. Kensington Vanguard will handle your escrow needs as well as your title insurance and your closing services. So you can go to the website at www.kv-lonestar.com to find our locations and our contact information. And we appreciate you using Kensington Vanguard National Title of Texas. We look forward to seeing you next week, where we will be talking about solar energy in the residential and commercial spaces. And we are really excited to hear about that. Something I wanted to know about, so I'm really excited to hear more about how that works. So we'll catch you next time on Working Title with Zach Sams. Thank you.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.